So my name is Marcelo. Good afternoon. I'm head of customer acquisition and growth at XP. XP is the biggest digital investment platform in Latin America. We have a market cap of over $8 billion. And think of it as a Brazilian version of a Robinhood with full banking services. And my job at XP is to bring more, better customers with less money, like as profitably as possible. So being a digital firm means most of our customer acquisition happens online. So the online landscape has become more and more competitive. I have this number for Brazil, not sure if it's the same for US, but every user scrolls on Instagram around 90 meters of content every day. So we are really competing with other firms for those 9 meters of content. It's not only financial institutions that we are competing with. We compete also with e-commerces and basically any type of company that's going for the attention of those users. Also, new privacy regulations make it even harder to effectively track users and optimize media. And to improve this, we had to move towards a stronger first-party data strategy. I'll show over the session how we managed to improve our share of qualified leads by more than 60%, which helped us to achieve a $66 million incremental revenue over the past year. Might sound a little bit cliche at first, but last year it was my first year here at Databricks Summit, and I got inspired by other growth teams that were using first-party data to improve their customer acquisition. I also met Hightouch, which you'll see come up a few times during this presentation. They basically offer all the features of a customer data platform while using Databricks as the only storage layer for that. This avoids the creation of a data silo and also much better for information security because you don't have your data spread out to different companies. Like you don't have those silos that maybe are not well governed as you can do with Unity Catalog and all the things you already know. So we'll go through basically 3 steps. So first we had to solve our data foundation. After we went to the fun part, the AI model development. And lastly, we had to integrate that within our whole ecosystem for advertisement. So let's talk about the data foundation first. So this is how a typical advertising funnel looks like. So a user will come from an ad. You will go to a web page where we'll open an account in our bank. We call a lead start when a user fills up the basic contact information, which means we can already talk to this user in some way. And a lead complete is basically an opened account. Like the user filled up everything we need, and now we just have to call the customer and try to make them invest. So the typical way to track this and optimize media is by having a pixel, which is basically a JavaScript in your website, that will bring back conversion events to Meta, Google, TikTok, Bing, whatever you use. And basically, this will allow you to say, hey, to the algorithms of Meta and Google, so hey, optimize for this, bring more of this type of customer that I'm telling you. But this has a lot of drawbacks, especially because now third-party cookies are being rolled back in most browsers. I think Safari and Firefox already did it, and Chrome is a bit over the fence, but I think they will end up doing it eventually. When you want to track events, only analytics events, a lot of people use Google Analytics. It's quite common in the industry. It's really easy to implement, but it's not that good if you want to have custom parameters. It has a lot of limitations in that sense. And it also only talks with Google BigQuery, which is maybe not the best because it is a data silo in itself, and also the pricing is kind of weird. I'll tell a fun story about it later. And then we have the server-side data. So the server-side data collection, in our case at least, it was a complete separate application. So we didn't have a single common key with the client-side events. So it would be very hard for us to make sense of what the customer did on the web page, but also what I know about the customer in my backend services. And the data was really delayed. The data would go to Databricks, but this ETL would be once a day, it would fail very often. So it was actually like once or like every 2 or 3 days, we would have that data updated. And the thing is, all of those, all of that data could be used, like better used to optimize media. Most of the advertisement platforms already offer a way to use server-side information to optimize media. But honestly, like, unless you have a good data infrastructure, it's very hard to use that effectively. So first of all, we had to rebuild our backend systems. So what we did, first of all, was to have those common keys between client-side and server-side. So not only we use some document numbers, like national ID numbers that allowed us to mix the client-side events and the server-side events, but also we brought to the server side, like we brought to our backend databases, informations about campaigns, the user's device, their location. So a lot of things that we could use to enrich that data and make better investment decisions for our media platforms later. So this had to be done. This was basically like 6 months work. So not only we solved the data collection, now we had like better enriched data, but also we solved that delayed ETL by using Apache Kafka. So now we wanted to link those two types of data. So I already have way better data in my backend, but if I want to cross it with my client-side data, I have Google BigQuery. And Google BigQuery, I could do an ETL, but it can get quite expensive. Like Google BigQuery, they charge you by the size of your query, and sometimes it's hard to like have control over that. We have a story of an analyst that literally did a $20,000 query, and there's not many ways to control that. So we really wanted to get rid of BigQuery in this part. And this is where Hightouch came in for the first time. So Hightouch allows us to do a cross-platform tracking with very flexible parameters, no sampling at all, which is also a problem in Google Analytics, and it is a zero-copy solution. So it brings all of those events directly into our lakehouse. So now we have enriched backend data, we have a lot more flexibility on the client side, and all of that data is sitting on the same place. So now we can talk about the fun part. We can talk about AI model development. So what happens here, we don't really care about opening accounts. We care about account activation. Account activation means not only a customer opened an account with us, but also invested money with us. So now it is like an active customer that we can actually extract our LTV from it, right? So the issue is, it takes 14 days to 80% of it might take 23 days to the majority of those customers to activate those accounts. When we optimized for opened accounts, the ROI was not very good. So like the cost of acquisition was pretty high, mainly because Google and Meta, they didn't know which customers were good or not. Like they were just finding customers that were opening accounts. So our first idea was like, well, sounds very simple. Now that we have a server-side connection, we just need to improve, we just need to optimize media for activations. So we have an activation event, we just use that to optimize media. That actually doesn't work. And the reason is Google, Meta, like all of those advertisement platforms, for their algorithms to work well, they need to receive conversions in a matter of like no more than 1 or 2 hours after the user saw like an ad. And really, it's hard to make this work if my customers don't behave that way. Like my customers take 14 days or even more to activate their accounts. There's no way to force them to do that in a matter of hours. So it's just a paradox between reality and what I wanted to do. So what we thought is like, what if AI could estimate within minutes the potential of a client so we can use that model signal as a conversion event? So I like this slide because it's impressive. So when I show to my business peers, they don't know what's going on. And I also like to say that this is only one tree of more than 1,800 trees that the full model has. So it becomes like a little bit more impressive. I won't be able to go much deep into how we built this, but Jarbas, our data science is here, so he can shed light if you guys want to understand better like how we built the light GBM. But what this model does, it's really simple actually. It's just classifying customers into one of three buckets. Either they are high potential, medium potential, or low potential. A high potential means that customer probably has more than 300K reals in net worth. Medium potential, it's something around from 100 to 300,000 reals in net worth. Low potential is anything below that. And the way we like to see the results, like how good the model performs, is the confusion matrix, which might be confusing at first sight, but it's actually a pretty good way to check what the model is actually doing behind all of those trees and leaves. And well, Jarbas can explain that a little bit better. But the thing is, like, the before here is how much money customers said they have. And this might be different in the US. I'm not really sure if this is only a Brazilian thing, but Brazilians, they're not very comfortable saying how much money they have. So even though when they open an account, they have to explicitly say how much money, what's their net worth, because that's regulated, like we have to ask that by law, they will often lie. In fact, like 50% of those customers will lie. Of those 50%, 2/3 will lie and saying they have zero, like they have no net worth. It makes no sense, right? But what the model does, so basically here is what would happen. So the confusion matrix is on the x-axis is what the model or whatever variable we are using, in this case what the customer said they have, is basically, this is what they said they have, and on the vertical is what they actually have. And we know that because we are using data from past customers, so we could cross what they said in the form and what they actually had once we learn more about them. When we go to our light GBM model, we can see that first of all, we have way less mistakes. So if you look at all the boxes, all the type of mistakes that you could make, it's more precise in all of them, but we have that highlighted box there, and that's the critical mistakes that we call. The reason that's a critical mistake is because we only have so many financial advisors. So financial advisors will only call medium and high potential customers. So if a low potential customer comes to them, they will not call that person because it's not like economically viable. So the problem with those two boxes is we have a customer that has a lot of potential, but it was classified as low potential. So no one called that customer, and probably we missed a business opportunity there. If you look at those two boxes in the before and after, we have half the mistakes with our new model. So we are wasting way less money than we did before. So this by itself was an improvement. We're not even talking about media optimization yet. This was just like segmenting better and making sure we were calling the right customers. But let's integrate this model with media targeting. Like this was our first goal, by the way. And this could be very, very troubling actually, because like, imagine you would have to put all of your back-end engineers to connect to all of those media platforms one by one. And if an analyst wanted to test a different signal, let's say we built like a second version of the model and we want to test it to see how it goes, those back-end engineers would have to do it again, like one by one for each media platform. But here's where Hightouch helps us again. So basically what they do, they have this thing called reverse ETL. An analyst can just make a query and it will transform that query into events that will be sent to those media platforms. So now we can, as long as we have data in our lakehouse, as long as we have a model feeding data in a table in our lakehouse, we can just transform that data directly into events with very low code and no need for a back-end engineer or a data engineer to do anything at all. So basically, by doing this, We achieved a 28 million increase in revenue just by segmenting the users to the right financial advisors. And by improving our media targeting, we achieved more than 60% share improvement in the share of qualified leads, which allowed us to have a 38 million improvement in revenue with our media platforms. Not only that, but we already have like plans for the next version of this model. So we plan to use second-party data, which is basically improving that model with external data from the Brazilian Stock Exchange, from Experian. Like we have those scores that we can have access to. So we believe this will make the model like even more precise. So we have an even better confusion matrix to work on. And we also have a lot of financial advisors throughout Brazil, like in different states. And they have like small offices that try to do their own customer acquisition process. So we are looking into ways of sharing their intelligence with them because they'll never have the scale to do this by themselves. But if we provide this either with data sharing or even like data clean rooms, we're still trying to figure that out. We can democratize this data access to all of those financial advisors. So yeah, thank you guys. I hope this was helpful. I will spend some time in the Hightouch booth if you guys have any doubts. So feel free to ask.